Welcome to Stop My Crisis. I'm your host, Vivian Gaspar. Have you started a business yet? Are you thinking of starting one soon? Over 80% of people who start a small business, unfortunately, will fail unless they learn the techniques to help them become the 1 in 5. The 1 in 5 who succeed and become the small business owner who ends up employing many others. We have a great guest with us here today. She is an expert in helping small business owners succeed to not become the statistic. Donna Prey is a business and marketing strategist, professional keynote speaker and trainer, and published author. She founded her company, Compass Rose Consulting, in 2003 after over a 20-year career in non-for-profit management and administration. Thank you so much for joining us here today, because I'm very excited to share your knowledge with our audience.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
What do you see as the #1 problem that small business leaders face today?
Well, I think the biggest problem that I see coming into my business is people need more money, which means more customers, more leads. They're
More
hurting,
sales.
they're struggling, yes.
So what I've always heard is, regardless of what your business is, whether you're an attorney, a CPA, whether you're building widgets, I don't care what your service is. And hey, what if you're an attorney or a doctor or a CPA? If you don't have sales, you don't have clients, you don't have income, you have an expensive hobby, right?
Right, exactly.
So that's the key.
Yes.
I know your mission is to help end small business failure. You want to end small business failure.
Definitely.
You want people to be in that 20% success ratio. So this seems like one of your keys. How do you do that? What is the 5-step formula you mentioned to me?
Well, we use a 5-step profit formula where we help businesses look at the key areas to increasing profits. So the 5 steps are more leads.
So #1, more leads.
More leads, more conversions.
More conversions from leads to sales, right?
Right, we're converting those leads into sales. More transactions, so the number of times we do business with a customer.
Oh wait, isn't that because the more transactions you have from one client or one customer, it's more effective? Isn't it more expensive to gain a new customer than get the same customer to buy more from you?
Definitely, definitely. The other way to increase revenue is to increase your prices, so higher prices, and then to increase your profit margin, so more profits. So those are the 5 areas that we start working with people on. And when we start looking at the numbers, small changes in each of those areas can actually have a huge effect on the overall revenue of the business.
So if we start talking about #1, more leads, what are some easy tips you can give on that area?
Well, I see people doing a lot of things to generate leads, especially with the internet, right? So everyone's got their website and they've got their social media going and they're doing a lot of activity, but it doesn't result in leads. And part of it is because they're using some tactics and they haven't put their full strategy together. So they'll do a Facebook post and it doesn't result in anything. And they need to have that strategy put together so that the person comes to a landing page. But first it starts with that really compelling message. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from all the other people in your profession? Lawyer, you know, there's a lot of lawyers, right? So what makes you
lawyers?
Yes.
What makes you different and special?
Right. Or realtors. You know, there's thousands of realtors. So how do you stand out from that crowd? And so you have to create your what we call a market dominating position. And that's one of the first steps in putting together your strategic marketing plan, is that market dominating position, so that when people see your ad, they go, wow, I need that.
So you just talked about realtors, but a realtor is not self-employed. They have to work for a real estate broker. So part of what you talk about, isn't it also including salespeople that are told to be treated like their own little business? So a realtor, they might work for a broker, but it's treated as their own business. Does that still count as to who you assist?
Definitely, definitely, because there's things that realtors can do to make themselves stand out even from the other people in their brokerage. So if I go to a realtor website and I look, you know, there's 25, 50, 100 realtors there, I'm picking from a little teeny picture when I look at that whole page. And it's like, which one do I pick? Do I pick that one? Do I pick that one?
I mean, I know a lot of real estate agents, they even have their own website.
Exactly. They
So-
should have their own website.
versus relying upon the broker's website. So it applies to small business owners and it applies to all commission salespeople.
Definitely.
Great. So in addition to more leads, how do you get that to be more conversions into sales from those leads?
Well, one of the things that we see happen when we send people to our website is that we have this big website that has a lot of choices, and we're hoping, I call it hope marketing.
Hope marketing.
You know, I hope that this is going to work. And so instead of having a website that has a compelling offer on it, and by that I mean it's something, we have to get in the head of the people that we're trying to help, right? So what is it that they need? What's the pain that they have? And then my goal is to solve the pain, right? So I need to get in their head. So if it's a real estate, we'll stick with that.
Okay.
And they want to sell their house. If I want to sell my house, I want to sell it fast.
Right.
I don't want to be on the market for 6, 10 months.
Think about how many times you have to clean your house to get ready for people to look at it.
Oh, yeah.
It's stressful.
I've seen houses on the market for years, right?
Well,
so, you know,
high-end houses could be on the market for a long time.
Right.
I heard the higher the price depends upon location, the longer it stays on the market. So that's just a very stressful process.
right. So if I'm a realtor, I want to have a compelling offer that lets people know I can sell your house fast. So I'm going to send people to a website to download my report on how I can prep your house to sell it fast. And I'm going to create a headline that makes you know that I'm going to solve your pain, sell your house fast, and how I'm going to do that. And by capturing that person's information, I now have a chance to continue marketing and building a relationship. Because one of the things that happens is we expect people to be in a buy now mode. And when we look at most buyers for a lot of industries, they're not in buy now, they're in research mode. Like, I have back pain, I'm going to look for a chiropractor. I'm looking at all my options, but I'm not buying that right now. I'm like, how do I solve the problem? And who's the best person to solve it for me?
So when you said you're capturing their information, what type of information are you capturing? Don't you just want their name and email address?
That's all I want, name
all
and
you want,
email.
email address.
Or even just email. I
Just-
want your name, email, phone. I want all of that. But if the best I can get is your email, then I know I can continue to engage with you.
That's your drip marketing campaign, correct?
Yes, so the next step would be to have a drip campaign, a follow-up campaign. So I see in a lot of different marketing tactics that people put their marketing out there and then they don't follow up on that marketing. They say, oh, well, that didn't work.
Well, didn't I hear that it's, I believe, at least 6 to 8 or more touches in order to convert a lead to a sale? Or
Right.
even if you just have a contact. Because
Right.
you don't know if necessarily your contact is a lead. It depends on how you obtain them. So
Right.
to make that contact into someone who's actually a buyer, who
Right.
actually transacts with you, a touch is, you know, maybe it's a phone call, an email, a text, some kind of a touch, right?
Right.
It's not usually a one touch and you're done. That's just luck or genius.
Right, well, I mean, there's some things where you're in a buy now mode. You know, like if you're driving and you get a flat tire, you've got to deal with it, right? You've got to do that right now. But most things aren't necessarily in that buy now mode. But the way we market, we expect people to call us. Calling is a high risk activity because I'm going to engage with you. And the fear that I have as the caller is that you're going to try and sell me something. And I don't want to be sold.
People
right?
want to buy, not be sold to.
Right. They don't want to deal with a salesperson where they've got to like get out of that sales process or figure out how to get off the call. And so by giving them something that's low risk, like a free report where they can download it, now I have an opportunity to continue building that relationship via email, possibly a phone call if I got their phone number, and get them to a place where they're ready to do business with me.
Do you believe it's okay to text people as a form of a touch instead of just an email marketing campaign?
I believe if they've opted in for that.
They have to opt in, right?
Right.
Because you don't want to be reported as spam.
Right. And the same with email. But texting, people have their phones and they're definitely looking at the phone messages and the voicemails and stuff like that. And they've got their email right on their phone now too. So they're all good tactics to get to people.
So I just thought texting might be more immediately seen, because I don't know about you, but I get at least 30 to 50 or more emails a day. And you just simply can't look at them all. And so all the people where I put my card into the exhibitors' booths,
Yep.
I'm now a lead to them.
Right.
I know what that means. So that means I'm getting that many more contacted
Yeah.
emails.
If you're going to do a trade show, right, you need to have your whole process put together before you spend your money to be at the trade show, spend your time, have your giveaways. Like, it's a big investment.
It is an investment.
And I've gone to trade shows where I've handed my card to the person and said, I want to do business with you, and they've never called.
Wow.
You know, so like we leave money on the table when we don't follow up with people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's happened to everyone. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if you go to networking events, you're sitting down, you talk to somebody, but then if you've talked to 10 people, and next thing you know, you get back to the office and your day-to-day operations, and you forget to follow up every time.
Right.
So I think a lot of value is in the just got to make sure you do your follow-ups, or don't do as many trade shows, or don't do as many
Right.
networking if you can't handle the quantity of follow-ups, right?
Yep. And that's why I love the drip campaign, because once you set it up, it's an automated campaign that's going out to the prospect that gives them information about your services and can give them more information than you can say in your 30-second or 60-second elevator pitch. Even if you see them over and over, they can see something that they say, oh, I didn't know she did that.
Oh, that
and
happens
that's
to me all
what
the
I
time.
need.
You see the same people, and one more conversation, like, oh, wow, I saw an email, and I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
That it really is important. And of course, you have so many competitors right now can do these drip mail campaigns. So researching a good company to work with is very helpful.
Yes, definitely.
So another thing you mentioned is about how to get more transactions after you've converted and gotten a new customer, a paying client.
Right.
So how would you get additional transactions from someone?
Well, I would look at the services or the products that the client has and figure out, are there ways that we can upsell or downsell something else that the person hasn't bought yet. So, you know, the McDonald's is famous for, do you want fries with that, right? So they're adding something on to your purchase. And so they've increased the transaction and kind of bundled things together. And so that's what we would kind of look at. Like, are there bundles? Are there packages that we could do? You know, so if somebody's coming in and they're buying a product, are there things that we could offer to them down the road that are similar? So a florist, for example, you know, you buy roses for your significant other on whatever occasion, say it's for Valentine's Day. You know, I could offer you a package where you're gonna pre-order gifts for your significant other for the full year.
That's a great idea.
And then I'm gonna set it up so that you're gonna pay me, you know, based on what the gifts are that you've selected, I'm going to bill you monthly so that it's spread out through the whole year, and I'm going to deliver your gift on the birthday or Mother's Day or whatever the significant holidays are. You know, so if I increase that purchase of roses from roses to 5 gifts during the year, like, I've just made significantly more money on that one customer.
And you're creating a residual sale. And a lot of people don't mind doing a credit card when they know that they're going to be doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And by the way, it also establishes additional rapport. By the way, as you just said, it's McDonald's. People got so used to the whole with fries at that, but they don't stop and think that that's actually an upsale. And they're used to it. They're used to receiving that information. But I think a small business owner is almost afraid or apprehensive on doing that to their clients.
Right.
So do you see that fear?
I
From your
do.
clients?
And I think of McDonald's, and most people are going in and they're buying the fries automatically now, right?
Right.
So,
It's they've trained their psychology.
Right. So now it's like, do you want the apple pie or that apple turnover thing that they have? So they still do an upsell of something else.
Because they've already increased their sales previously.
Right.
But have you seen that your clients are now apprehensive on doing that in their lives? And what are people afraid of?
Well, I think people are afraid of losing a customer. But the thing that we have to keep in mind is that what we're offering to a customer actually has value to that customer. And so it's almost a service, or it is a service, to offer them that additional value. And be open to the no, you know, but you're offering that. And for a lot of customers, they're going to appreciate that offer, especially if it's something that they would go someplace else to have to buy.
Right. So that makes sense that they don't have to do it anyhow.
Convenience. Like, I'm getting it from you.
And
I don't have to go all these other places.
And they're already happy with you. They've already interacted with you. They've done business with you. They're comfortable with you.
Right.
And so it makes sense to them. So don't be afraid to eliminate the fear, and you'll just see more success.
Right.
And I think that's where they say that sometimes fear stands in people's way of growth. You've seen that, right?
Yes. Fear is a big problem for a lot of people. We definitely help with that fear. And how do you overcome the fear, overcome the objections? There's the fear of making calls if you're in sales, like picking up the phone and making that call. And, that can be challenging for people. How do you do the things that are really going to make you money every day?
Well, I think keeping your mental state higher. I mean, if you've watched, there's some great videos on YouTube of very successful individuals. And if you just look up on YouTube inspirational videos on sales, and that confidence boost will help you go a long way with the money.
Right. I think inspirational videos, any inspirational thing that you can do to increase your energy and your feeling. And then if you get that no, go right back to that inspirational stuff to, and get back on the phone again.
Well, I know someone who watches it before every bigger sales call they have that's scheduled.
Yeah.
It helps them keep that mental state very high and peaked in their energy, because people sense the energy. They don't want to buy from someone who's they want to buy from someone
Right, right.
So the next point is, you mentioned getting higher prices. I think people are afraid to raise prices.
I was going to say, here's fear again, right?
It comes right back down to it.
Right.
It's a fear that, oh my God, they will stop buying from me if I'm priced too high.
Right.
But I think it's a respect thing. I think people don't respect you enough if you're charging too low.
It's true. And I was just doing a workshop the other day where we were talking about these things, and one of the women said she raised her prices and her business increased.
Wow, that's a great way to start off.
Right? So I think people are afraid that they're going to lose people. And when we actually flesh out the numbers of the number of customers that you would actually lose versus the amount of increased profit that you would have, you can afford to lose customers and with that increased profit and still break even to where you were and then be better off.
And have profitable gain.
Right, right. So when you do the numbers, it's actually beneficial to raise your prices. And I agree also that it's a perception of value.
That's right. People expect to pay more to get better value.
Right.
And I think they get suspicious. If they're paying too little, it might not be good. It might not be valuable and worth it.
Right.
I think that it might even be better to offer a payment plan and have higher prices to make it affordable for someone, because again, you're raising the perceived value.
Definitely, definitely.
So you think that's a good worthwhile to go?
It's a fear, and you can do your price increase slowly.
Gradual increases help.
Yeah, test it out. Do 5% and then 10%, but if you do that slow increment and you look at, the overall benefit to your business, it's significant, because that price increase is profit, right? Because your expense hasn't increased.
And didn't you mention before that you've encountered business owners who have been in business many years, 5, 10 years or longer, who haven't increased their prices at all?
Definitely. And you can't afford to do that. And
you had to have had cost rise.
Right.
I mean, over the many years, your cost must have increased. So you then have shrunken your profit margin. If you haven't raised your prices to keep pace with your increased costs, you're doing a disservice to yourself and your family.
Definitely. And so it's one of those fears that you have to battle through it and test it out.
Which goes to the last point you mentioned, which is more profits.
Right. And so more profits is looking at the expenses. How do I increase my profit margin and decrease my expenses? And so we look at some great strategies for helping companies to do that. And one of them is to use interns. And I know that's a strategy that you've liked in your business too. And interns can do a wealth of things for your company and help bring in more customers through the work that they're doing and lower your costs.
Now, when I say unpaid interns, what's really great is, remember, you're not taking advantage of the interns, because I've actually come across a lot of people, for example, they want to be in business, but the
Right.
only experience they've had so far is maybe waitressing or clerical work, where no one's going to hire them to pay them to do something significantly more. They don't have the experience. It's that conundrum. How do you
Yeah.
get into something if they don't have the experience?
Right.
But, you know, but
It goes around and round.
it's that whole conundrum. But if they start off as an intern, somebody now teaches them the ropes. It might cost them a little bit of time, but now they've built up their resume,
Right.
and it makes sense. And that's why we have employed in our business here interns, because we're helping people also. We
Yep.
give them opportunities to have fantastic work experience. We give them great reviews on when people call in for them to now progress to paid employment.
Yep. And I've done the same thing in my company where I've had interns in marketing programs at colleges. And it's been fun for me to work with the professors and to help that student succeed in the course that they're taking. And my company has benefited from what they've done for us.
Besides that fantastic internship program that we both utilize, any other suggestions on how someone can lower their profits? And by the way, I even heard large companies now, I mean, some of the large banks on Wall Street have encouraged some of their upper staff to work remotely so they could cut back on how much office buildings space they take up and their cost and all along that.
Right.
Have you seen that employed?
Definitely. And I think it depends on the business and what their actual expenses are, you know, what strategies can be used to lower those expenses, you know, and so it depends on their overall operation and how you can cut back on those expenses.
I think it's now working remotely is the same thing as working from home. It just sounds more upscale.
It does.
Now that large companies are now employing the same thing that people used to think is a negative,
Right.
it's I think become a lot more mainstream and acceptable. So why shouldn't more small business owners employ the same thing that these huge Fortune 500 companies now see the light that they're saving
Right.
money on?
Right. And some of them are using the shared workspaces as well. So instead of having, you know, a big office, you know, there's the co-working spaces that for a lot of small businesses work really well.
Oh, that's a really good idea.
Because you have conference room or access to conference room and meeting space, and but you don't have the expense of your own office. You know,
It still looks very professional.
Exactly. You know, so that can be a great strategy depending on the business. Doesn't work for every business, but depending on the type of business could be really effective.
Well, I think that some of these strategies are not just suggestions, but I think all of these strategies should be looked at, because if someone is not investing into their business to move forward, I myself have come across a lot of business owners who are like, well, I've been doing X, Y, Z for these years, and that's it. I don't want to do anything else. You've encountered these types of people, right?
Right. Yes.
And as a business coach, you've seen, well, wow, if they just did 1 or 2 or 3 tweaks, you've actually have shown me how people then can increase their businesses by 30 to 50% by just making tweak changes, correct?
Definitely. And the unfortunate part about the person that you're talking about is I've seen several of those people go out of business.
Oh, that's the worst part. And
they
people lose
weren't-
jobs if they have employees.
Right, because they weren't willing to make those tweaks or to focus on the things that can really bring in more money, more customers, more leads into their business.
Now, you handhold people through this process, right? It's not like, here's a seminar, go do it and figure it out, correct?
I have a resource center where we have all the strategies and training that people need, and then I work with people one-on-one on the implementation of those strategies and how you put it into action for your particular company and business.
That's really important because, of course, somebody has to hear the information, how it applies to them.
Right.
And not that it's generic and they have to then implement on their own accord, because some people just aren't capable of doing that. They need that little bit of hand-holding, but it benefits them, and there's a huge trickle-down effect. So, Donna,
Right.
thank you so much, because when you help a small business owner succeed, it's not just about them and their families, but so many of these small business owners have employees, and they need to stay employed and do better, and of course, grow and have more employees.
I agree. Like it affects, it ripples out is how I look at it.
Fantastic ripple effect.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you so much. And remember, if top professionals, top pros, if Tiger Woods and every major sports player in the arena, and these top professionals, like even Tony Robbins has coaches. Why doesn't every small business owner or every entrepreneur looking to be in the business have a coach? It's a very worthwhile investment into your business. I personally, throughout all the businesses I've ever owned, I've always believed in coaches, because we cannot do something we're going to flourish in and become very large successes at all by ourselves.